Okay, in this tutorial, we're gonna convert some PDF plans into SketchUp document to get ready for modeling. So there's two ways to do this. The best way to do it, I'm gonna show you, is using Photoshop. So um, I'll open up Photoshop and I have my plans here. My PDF, so I'm just going to drag the PDF into Photoshop from Windows Explorer. Now here where it says the resolution is 300 dpi and then the pixels, I'm going to make sure this is on pixels for width and height. It says 10,000 at the longest end, and that's going to be really slow down your computer when you go into SketchUp. So I like to keep that around 4,000, but I'll change the resolution until it gets close to 4,000. So I think like 120 pixels per inch looks like it gets me there. So I just change the resolution, hit OK, and then it'll open the PDF in Photoshop. And then it's hard to see because it's only showing me the lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my layers window and then click on this the little lines, whatever, the menu lines, and then say flatten image, or go, I'm not sure where it is, just I open up the layers window and do it that way. Okay, so now if I zoom in here, so obviously this is the plan, the floor plan for the building that we want to model. And down here, if it's drawn correctly, it should have a scale. So you can see it says floor plan scale, 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So that means every 1/4 inch of this piece of paper equals 1 foot in the real world. So in the 3D world, we're going to follow that. So what I want to do is I want to save this file as a JPEG so that we can import it easily into SketchUp. But before I do that, I'm going to check the image size, not necessarily the pixels because I already got that set, but the actual inches themselves so that we can scale it properly when we get it into SketchUp. So we go click on the image button and then click on image size, and then instead of percent or pixels, click on inches. So it says 34 point yada yada inches by 23 point something. So I need to get that a little more refined. So I'm just going to change that. I'm going to not change it here because that'll squish my image. It'll squish and stretch it. I'm going to exit out of that, click on image, canvas size. So this, I can change the inches and it will crop it and it won't squish the picture itself. So I'm going to get rid of all this extra stuff. So it's just going to crop the image just a little bit because the scan is just a little too big. So, or the save for this PDF, so that I get a nice 34 by 23 inches. Hit OK, and it crops it in just perfectly the way it should be. But I still have all the information on the board that I need. So now I'm going to save it as a JPEG out of Photoshop. So save as JPEG, but I want to add to the end of the name the amount of inches, the size, so that I don't forget when I import it into SketchUp. So I know it's 23 by 34 inches. Okay, save as a JPEG, and then it'll say what quality. I usually do about 9 or 10, because if you go too high, it'll slow down your computer when you're modeling. If you go too low, it'll be too blurry. So 9 or 10 is pretty good. It's like high quality, but not too crazy. Just make sure I have the right that I named it the right size, 23 by 34 inches, and that's what I named it. That's very important to get the scale correct in SketchUp. So now I can close. Actually, I'm going to do one more. That was the floor plan. Now I have the elevation sheet here, and 120 resolution, around 4,000 width pixels. That's just what I want. I don't want it less than 4,000, and I don't want more than 4,000 because it'll be too blurry or it'll slow down the computer while I'm modeling. So click on the layers window, flatten image, click on image, canvas size, switch this to inches, crop out these little fractions of an inch, little decimal places, and then save that as a JPEG, but add in 23 by 34 inches, save at 9 or 10 quality, check to make sure 23 by 34. Okay, now I can close Photoshop. Now I've converted these PDFs into JPEGs. So now I'm going to open up SketchUp. And let that open up. The computer's thinking so hard. Just got to give it a few seconds more. Okay. Now SketchUp is open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Windows Explorer window on top of the SketchUp, but have it a little bit smaller so I can take these JPEGs and drag them into SketchUp, and then just kind of drag them onto that axis button so that it snaps there, so that they don't get lost in space. So now I've got the floor plan in here, but now I don't have it scaled properly because these doors should be around 3 feet wide, but right now they're 3 inches wide. So first thing I'm going to do is, this is not a texture yet. I need it to be a texture, so it's just an image. So I'm going to right click on it and say explode. So that'll explode it into faces and lines. And then what I like to do is open up the materials window. You can get it into your tray, and then just click on default material, and then make the bottom the default material so that it's just the top is the image and the bottom is the default. Just a little bit cleaner. Another thing I could do is open up the styles toolbar. So I'll go toolbar, view toolbars, and then click on styles, and then from there I can put that in here, and then click on this left side style, which is X-ray mode, and that way it's more like trace paper, and I can trace it more easily. Until I start, while I'm just tracing, I always have X-ray mode on, so you can see your lines show up really clearly. So next, what I need to do is get the scale correct. So since this is drawn to a correct scale, 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So all I have to do is multiply the amount of inches by 4, because that would be every 1/4 inch is 1 foot, so that every inch of this sheet is 4 feet, because 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So I know this is 23 inches, because if I look at this, it says 23 inches on the short end. So if I just times 23 times 4, 92. So this should be 92 feet from on the short end. So what I can do is I click on, I need to get my construction toolbar there. So I go View, Toolbars, click on Construction, get that in my palette, and then click on the tape measure tool. Now you can measure things with a tape measure by clicking left click, just click on one corner, and then you click on the other corner, and it measures. It's about 11 feet right now, but I need it to be 92 feet. But the cool thing you could do with a tape measure is you can not only measure, but you can force your model to become that size. So I can click on the left side, then click on the right side, then type in 92 foot, the apostrophe sign, and that means foot, and then hit enter. It says, do you want to resize the model? Yes, I want to resize the model. So now I'm using the tape measure tool not to measure, but to make it the measurement that I want it to be. So I'm the boss. So now it actually is 92 feet. And you got to be careful, because if you have a model with things in the scene already, and then you do that, you bring in an image with an existing model, and you measure a side, and you type in the measurement you want, and you force it, your whole model is going to expand or contract like Alice in Wonderland. And you don't want that to happen if you already have parts of your model already done inside this scene. But since this image is the first thing I brought in, I can do that. Now, let's say if I select this and I make that into a group, right? Edit, make group. Now let's say I'll just copy this around, like I already had a bunch of things in my scene, but I don't want to resize everything. I just want to resize this one thing. Let's say I want it to go down, to 92 inches instead of 92 feet. If I make it a group and I double click, now I'm inside the group. Now if I resize, if I go 92 inches instead of 92 feet and hit enter, do you want to resize the active group or component? Because I double clicked in it before I did the tape measure trick. So I say yes, so now it only resizes that object or that group or component, and not the rest of my model. So be careful with that. I'm just going to undo the last few steps I did. So now I've got this floor plan in here, and it's to the correct size. So now I'm just going to get rid of my axis because it's just annoying and it's in the way. So I'm just going to go into the styles window, and then on the edit, and on the right side turn off model axis, because I no longer need that, because now I have this image is my floor. It's grounding my whole scene now. So now I want to bring in the elevation sheet, but it's the same size. It's 23 by 34. It's the same exact size, so I don't have to do all those tricks again. I can just drag it in here, line it up with my previous one, minimize this, and then just use the scale tool. So I go View, Toolbars, Large Tool Set, and then bring it over here, double click. Now I can just use the scale tool right here and just scale it, because I know in Photoshop it's the exact same size. So now I've got this elevation sheet scaled properly. Now I can right click on that, explode. So now that's an image, and it's a texture with lines, faces and lines. So next thing I need to do is I need to cut out, because this is all four sides of the building showing. So I'm gonna use a line tool. Actually, I'm gonna use a selection tool, because this is a little easier. I'm gonna select that end line, then click on the move tool, and click on my line, and then hold down Control, and then I'm gonna copy that line down to the bottom of the building. There's a sidewalk there, but I'm just going to do it to the bottom of the building. and then click on that line again, hold down Control to copy the line, and make another one over here in the middle of that line, right at the bottom of the building. Then do that down here with these ones. So it's at the bottom of the door. That's the floor. That's like where the, you know, the finished floor they call it. Yeah, those in the contracting building world. So now I'm just gonna copy another line just to kind of make a space in between these two. And one more time, select the line, hold down Control, Move tool. Now I'm going to use my eraser tool and just erase these extra lines that I don't need in the middle. So now I've got 3 images. Now I can bring it in a little bit. I'll bring in the sides a little bit. I don't need all the extra stuff. Move it down a little bit. But I want to keep as much information to help me construct the model as it's on there. It's just helpful. Move these lines over a little. I'm just using hotkeys for the move tool. That's all I'm doing. Select, move, select, move. And now I need to separate now these 2 small sides. Just copy these lines. Eraser tool. Now I have 4 images of all 4 sides. Now I can click on each one, edit, make group, select, edit, make group. Do that to all 4. Make groups. So now I've got 4 groups, 1 for each wall. Okay. Okay. Now I need to rotate these up onto their side because right now they're falling flat on the ground, but in you know, the 3D world, that's not where they're supposed to be. So I'm just going to click on one, click the rotate tool, click on hover over the bottom edge, and then click and drag it over the rest of the edge to get that nice red color on my wheel. Then I click on the image again and start to move it up and type in 90, enter, and that will give me a nice clean 90-degree rotation. I'm going to do that to all 4 images. Click the rotate tool, hover over the line, click and drag to the side, then let up, click on the image, start to rotate 90, enter. I type in on the keyboard. Do that 2 more times. Okay, now I need to rotate these and put them in place where they actually go. And based on what these look like here, let's see here. So this side sticks out a little, and I can see this one sticks out, so that's got to go right here. So I'll use my rotate tool to rotate that 90 degrees and then move it over into place. And line it up with the plan. And it's close, close. I think, yeah, it's close. Let's see, side, just a little bit this way. That looks close. Okay. And then I can move that out a little bit, but keep it in line with the side it's supposed to be on. So then I know this has to be for the other side, so I'll rotate it the other direction 90 degrees. and bring it over here to this side. That makes sense, right? If that one goes on that side, we gotta just go around until we got them all on here where they belong. Okay, so if the building sticks out right there, it sticks out right there, then this one needs to rotate 180 degrees and go over here by this bump out. That looks correct. Line up the edge of the building on the plan with the edge here. Something doesn't quite look right there. Why doesn't that look right? Oh, I see. Well, no. Something's not lining up. That door lines up. I just think that maybe they drew this drawing incorrectly. It just looks like it's off just a little bit, and that might have been where they weren't using, you know, a model that changes when they said, oh, let's bump out, let's you know, bring in the plan a little bit, but then they didn't get around to changing the elevation, because I think, you know, there's a little bit of difference, but we're not going to worry about that too much because we know we scaled it properly. So we're just going to, for right now, say we think that's a mistake in some changes they made with the drawing that they didn't make yet with the elevation. I'm pretty confident that it's not our mistake right now, that it's the CAD mistake. It's not like I'm saying that, I'm not trying to point fingers, you know, it's just you can tell things aren't quite lining up. When stuff like that happens, we always want to follow the plan, first of all, for the placement of the windows and doors and walls, and then just use the elevation more for like the size of the doors, the textures and stuff like that, but don't get too hung up on whether everything matches perfectly, because mistakes happen. We just got to keep pressing on. You know, we're doing these for renderings mostly. If they want perfection, they're going to have to ask for it, and usually they don't. So if they were going to take this model we're building and say, yeah, we're going to bring it out on an iPad and we're going to build the actual building from your SketchUp model, then yes, we need to ask them, like, hey, these aren't lining up, so what do you want us to do? Do you want us to follow the plan or the elevation? But for most of the time, we're just doing it for rendering purpose, and so we just do the best we can. Follow the plan for the where everything is laid out, and then follow this for the elevation for texturing and, you know, window heights and, you know, decoration type stuff. And that's it, basically. Phase 1, part 1 of this tutorial is done. Now, I told you at the beginning, I think I told you, if I remember correctly, is that there's 2 ways to do this. One is using Photoshop, which I just showed you, which is the easiest and I think is the best, most accurate way to get PDF plans into SketchUp. Now, what if you don't have Photoshop for some reason? You know, you just don't pay that bill to the Adobe monster. There is a workaround for that. So I'm going to show you. Don't use this. If you have Photoshop or you can get Photoshop, use Photoshop. Open up the PDF in Photoshop, because it's a lot more clean, a lot more accurate. But if you don't have Photoshop, there's a workaround. So this is a last resort workaround. So I'm going to pretend that we didn't export those nice, perfectly sized, nice looking JPEGs, and all we have is these PDFs, and all we have is PDF Reader. We don't have like Adobe anything. just going to pretend that we just don't want to. If you don't pay for that, you know, you can't. That's not something you do. So what we can do is we can zoom in. So instead of 35%, we'll type in 100. Oh, battery. Okay, I just gotta plug in my laptop. Thought it was plugged in. Was that it? Oh my goodness. Okay, now I got it plugged in. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so now I have the PDF open. I'll zoom in to 100% and then scroll down with the side scrollers. And we're just gonna take screenshots. And this plan is kind of big, so we'll have to do it in 4 pieces, I'm thinking. So we'll just take so we'll just get this on one corner of the plan, and then use the snippet tool. So if you don't know where that's at, go into Programs, go down to Windows, Accessories, and then scroll down to where it says Snipping Tool. Snipping Tool, it's like a circle with a pair of scissors. Okay, so then click a New, and then just draw a box around this. If you're on a Mac, you know, there's a way to do. There's a snipping tool. I think it's Snippet for Mac, and Snipping tool for Windows PC. And then click Save. So I'll just save this as like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm gonna keep it the same size. This is important because when you bring it into yeah, this is not very accurate, so just try to do your best, but this is totally like a last resort if you don't have Photoshop. Do not use this if you can do it with Photoshop. But you can follow, you know, these dimensions. You can get it really close if you're just doing some renderings and you're not doing it. It doesn't have to be exact. You can get it pretty close using this method. So 1, 2, 3, and then I go to the last corner, snipping tool, and then save another 4th image. And then I'll do the same thing for the elevation. Open up the PDF, zoom in to 100%, and I'll need to do this to all of them. Actually, I think I can zoom in another time. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can to get a good crisp image of this elevation. So I'm zoomed at 125%. And I'm not going to do this to all of them, but I'll do it to half of them. So I'll do this side here. This is not as accurate, but It'll get you there if you have to. I'll do a middle one. And then a side one here. Okay, so now I've got all these images. I'll open up Sketchup and do the makeshift method. So I'm still going to drag in the images, but this time I don't have it scaled correctly from Photoshop. So I'm going to right click, explode, and what I'm going to do is I'll bring in all 4 images first, and then I'll scale each one separately for the plan, and then I'll show you what to do with the elevation after we get the plan scaled as best we can. So I'll right click, explode all 4 sections, and then select, edit, make group to all of them so that we can scale each one individually. So double click, go into X-ray mode, and then I want to draw a line on one of these dimension lines. So this should be 10 feet. It says 10 feet from that point to this point. So now I draw a line. I can use my tape measure tool, click 1, click 2, type in 10, apostrophe, enter, which equals 10 feet. Yes, so I just resized that section, and I'll do that to all 4. I'm going to use my hotkeys just for the line tool and the move tool and the selection tool, so I can go a little faster here. So after we scale these, then we'll have to line them up properly. So this is definitely more difficult and not as accurate, but it'll get you within an inch or 2 of accuracy. Close enough that someone looking at your rendering on a screen would not be able to tell that it's not perfect. And that's pretty much all we care about right now. Okay, I'm going to right click, explode all of these, and then I'm going to find a common line. So I'll just use this little box that I can add a line on both images. Something that shows up on all 4 images that I can line up properly. Because I use that snipping tool, it's not very precise, like Photoshop type thing. It's just a screenshot. So I need to find something that brings them all together. One ring to rule them all. Okay, so now I can see these words are showing up on all 4 of them, so I'm just going to cut this line through the 5 and the 0 right there. I'm going to do that to all of them. And then I can delete the excess lines and faces that we don't need, and then just snap them all together. Here we go. Let's delete the extra stuff. Just select and delete. Now, if my theory is correct and I make all these groups with my hotkey, I should be able to snap all 4 of these together, and then it should be complete. Yes, no, I messed that up. I think there's 2 of these. So here, let me explode these. I think side to side it should be good. We'll just use like this doorway to line them up. Let's see if this works now. Yeah, so I'll just click this line on that doorway and then snap it together after that. Now we're close. It's not perfect, like I said. You can right click, go to texture, and just kind of line it up a little bit better that way. Right click, texture. I should go in a circle, actually. This one's pretty good. So it's pretty good. It's not gonna be perfect, like I said, within an inch or 2. And then I can click on the eraser tool, hold down shift, and then just hide those lines in the middle. Instead of erasing them, if you hold down shift with the eraser tool, it'll hide the lines. So these are my extra scale lines. Okay, so I've got the plan scaled properly, so that if this is 10 feet, then that's a proper, yep, it's very close. So it's a sloppy way without Photoshop. And then basically for the elevation, I would just bring in the elevations, explode it, clean up the lines a little bit to get them lined up with the bottom of the building. Make it a group, rotate it 90 degrees. And then for this part of it, I don't have a scale on this right now, so what I would do is just eyeball it. I'd line up one edge, and I could move this line over right to that edge, and then I could use a scale tool to line up the other edge. .995. So that's very close. Cool. And then just do that to all the elevations going around the building, so that you can actually do it without Photoshop if you had to. I don't recommend it though. Only if you can't get your hands on Photoshop and you have to make a model quickly. So one more thing to note, there's a setting in SketchUp. Now this looks really clear on my screen, this JPEG image, and I could see these lines, and I could click on the toolbar, go to give my large tool set back, double click, and I can see lots of detail and draw in these lines really easily. But if there's a certain setting that's not set properly for doing this kind of modeling, the textures will show up really blurry, and that's not good. So I'm gonna, on your screen it may be blurry or it may be clear. So if it's blurry, or just check it anyway, go to Window, Preferences, click on OpenGL, and where it says use maximum texture size, make sure that's checked. If it's not checked and I click OK, it's gonna get really blurry. I mean, my video card's good, so it's not the end of the world. I could but it's like just very grainy, and when you're trying to visualize nice textures and do tracing, it just makes it a lot more difficult. With graphics cards and the software getting better, it's not as much of an issue as it used to be many years ago, but I highly suggest you keep that on. So Window, Preferences, OpenGL, use maximum texture. Yes, and it crisps everything back up, so it's more like you're viewing the image the way it's supposed to be viewed. And it's using filtering. There is a filter in SketchUp so it's not like crashing your computer, but it's just bringing those pixels out more crisp, more high res, and that's it.